Hello, everyone. This is Armstrong Williams on the right side. Armstrong. Don't curse, speak English. Armstrong. Virtuous society. Armstrong. I dare you to listen. Hey, turn it up. Hey. Armstrong. Get on the right side. Armstrong. Elevate your mind. Armstrong. I'm Armstrong Williams on the right side. Armstrong. Hey, yo, man, it's your boy K.O. And you're tuned into the most conservative of our brothers. Armstrong. The Armstrong Williams Show. Please give me a break. Grow up. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Armstrong Williams Show. Let me welcome my special guest, Gandhi Pinder, all the way from Nassau, Bahamas. Talk show host early in the morning. I'm on with her every morning. I say one good turn deserves another. Maybe it's time for Gandhi to do my show. Hello, Gandhi.
Hi, Armstrong, and hello to all of your listeners. Happy to be on.
Good. Just speak up for us a little more. You know, you have a parrot's voice. So just
okay.
Okay,
I know,
good.
and I'm so far away in warm, beautiful, sunny Bahamas. But yes, can you hear me now?
Much better. And Shirley Dave, how are you doing? Welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show.
Hi, Armstrong.
I needed to have this conversation today. You know, whether it's Petraeus, whether it's Clinton, whether it's Tiger Woods, it doesn't matter. Why is it that men cheat? I mean, what is going on in this country? And I wanted to talk to people that our audience are not really that familiar with when we talk about the subject. Gandhi is a first-time guest on our show, and Shirley, obviously, has lived long enough to understand and have gathered a few pearls of wisdom on this subject. So let me start with you, Gandhi. When you read about this story across the miles of the way in Nassau, Bahamas, about General Petraeus, what are the people saying there?
Well, people are just saying that, wow, we can't believe that all of this happened. How was she able to get all of this information? But a lot of the men over here seem to understand, and they're saying, well, in the Bahamas, in our culture, that's almost expected. So some people were asking the question, well, why does he necessarily have to step down? It's hard to believe, but it's true.
Shirley, I mean, obviously, what Gandhi is saying is that her culture is more of accepting of that than the United States. But let me ask you, Gandhi, before we get Shirley to chime in, why is your culture more accepting of it?
I believe, Armstrong, it seems that like sweethearting is second nature. It's hard to find some politicians that haven't done that at some point. I believe because of socialization, there's something that I notice when you see a child with his dad and a woman would come up to the baby and be like, oh, you're so cute. The dad would be like, hey, we'll talk to the lady. Don't you see that's a lady? You know you love women, or you know you like women. And it starts from so early. But Armstrong, you know, I don't know, maybe some men trying to fill a void, problems in the relationship, maybe being emasculated and that peer pressure. And I think it's actually the cool thing to do. And because women, we accept it. And I think that's why.
Shirley, should we just focus on the men? Does women actually play a role in corrupting men in this way?
I don't think women corrupt men. I think that men have a voice of their own. They have a mind of their own. In Petraeus' situation, I do believe that it's just blown out of proportion from what I've read and understand, and maybe it's something I don't understand. But I think that as long as it doesn't hurt the national security of this country, that they should just leave him alone. Everybody has affairs. And
wait a minute. Everybody?
I mean, you know, affairs happen. I should say that. Affairs happen between people. And you know that. It's all over, sometimes widespread. If you can go down the list and you can see all of the politicians that have had affairs, it's ongoing. It's happened over and over again. And so what is the big deal? You know, but if it's affecting the national security of this country and all those secret documents is affecting the country, then yes, I think he should step down. But if it's not, leave his personal life alone if it doesn't affect his professional ability.
Now, again, then, Shirley, let me tell you what's interesting about what Shirley just said. In fact, many people think that this situation and the emails and distractions are going to come full circle and will be connected to Benghazi and why there was not a rapid response to the ambassador's request and the other senior officials at the time when there was this terrorist attack on the consulate in Libya. And they think there are a lot of things that has happened over the last several months where there's just been a breakdown in intelligence because of the distractions. And obviously, when you see one of the top generals sending over 30,000 emails, Gandhi, to a woman who's not his wife, and some of these emails were pretty sexy. Let me tell you, Gandhi.
But you know what, Armstrong? I think that everybody has needs, and I heard Shirley say something about how everybody may fall into that trap, and I think the need to communicate is evident when you look at the number of emails that were sent, and now we see Alan being brought into question. And
we are talking about Alan. He sent all the emails.
Exactly, to head of NATO now, and so maybe something is missing. Maybe we always say that men think with, they think with down there, and women are more emotional. But we see with the level of contact and the amount of emails and that primary form of communication that maybe something was missing in that area. Men have emotions too. Men are emotional too. Y'all have a softer side, right, Armstrong?
But listen, here's the thing. Let me ask both of you. I mean, obviously, these generals are overseas, away from their wives 3 or 4 months at a time under intense pressure. And obviously, do we actually expect them to be perfect? Shirley?
Absolutely not. I think in this case, he was away from home, and I love women's liberation and all of that, but I think that sometimes women have this manipulative way of controlling things, and so with him being alone and where he was, Broadwell, I have to say, is his biographer. She knew him better than anybody. So I think it becomes, what I was reading was the fact that she thought that Kelly was involved with Petraeus.
And we don't know that she wasn't.
And I think there was a little jealousy going on there, and all that started as a result of these different emails coming from different places harassing Kelly. And Kelly took it to FBI, and the FBI started investigating, and all of a sudden this big scandal broke out. So, but nobody's perfect, and everybody makes mistakes. But I think sometimes we find ourselves doing things and think it's not going to come back on us, and situations present itself where, because you can't hide and sneak and do anything, because it always comes back. If there's some way that somebody's going to find out about it, so be straight up about things. Be out in the open and let things, stop sneaking around trying to do things behind the doors. I don't understand how Petraeus was able to do all this since he has so much high security around him, but of course they don't go into
maybe they're involved too.
Maybe, who knows?
Let me raise this with you, Gandhi. I just think it's so hypocritical and so disgusting that his biographer would become upset with another perceived mistress when she's having an affair and she's married and General Petraeus is married. What are we missing here? It sounds crazy.
Well, they seem to have formed their bond, and she seems to be a bit territorial, which women can often do, especially when emotions are involved. But Armstrong, you asked a good question. What was happening in Benghazi? Did this serve as a distraction? And I believe that the FBI is supposed to present their findings today. But this is a top man in the CIA, Armstrong. And so now the question comes into talent and character, intellect and character. And can we really separate the two? It's like that whole argument with church and state, because he is in such a high position. Is he called to a higher standard?
Well, there's a moral code in their clause when they're serving, especially when you're a general, and they understand that. But obviously, but listen, it's not as if the majority of the men, we may not be aware of it, cheat and cannot show fidelity to their spouses. Are you saying that Petraeus is not the exception? He represents what the majority do, and we just don't know about it?
Well, Armstrong, I'm reading something, and I see a study that says approximately 50% of men cheat. I think it's approximately 98% of men cheat. Shirley, what do you think?
Shirley, what do you think?
I just think that it gets to a point where when you're in power and you have certain kinds of power, I think you become invincible. And if you look back on a lot of the politicians that have been exposed to cheating on their spouses, and I mean, when I say politicians, we're talking about, Clinton, and the Weiner was even stepping down, and he had sex online. So
now he didn't have sex.
No, he did sex pictures online. I said online.
He was advertising his
He was
attributes.
advertising. He could not have sex online, but
okay.
He was advertising. So I'm just saying, America, we have these, I think, double standards. And when Gandhi said that they don't persecute you as much as we do here, I think we have a lot of double standards here in this country. Some people can get away with it and others can't. And then when they do think they're getting away with it and they don't get away with it, then it becomes a big, big issue. And it depends. I think a lot of it based on politics. It's based on a lot of things.
Again, what happens to powerful figures in your territory, in your country, when a scandal like this is exposed?
That's actually not very often.
Interesting.
A scandal like that would be exposed. Sometimes people know, sometimes people whisper. We have a particular daily or something that comes out actually once a week, and it's called The Punch, and it has all the gossip in it, and sometimes there's a sip, and sometimes people say things and then they move on and change the topic. But you asked the question, and why do I think that it's more accepted in my country? And I would say that to say
just hold that point. Gandhi Pinder Shirley Dave. Just hold that point. We're coming back. This is the Armstrong Williams Show. Don't go away.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.RightSideWire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.RightSideWire.com.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933. Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sports shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
I want to go back to, you were making a different point. You were saying that this is rare in your country. Gandhi?
Well, actually, if someone is asked to step down, and I was talking about, the difference in culture, like here in the Bahamas, also in the Caribbean, like Jamaica, and even in Africa, where some people are allowed to have multiple wives. Armstrong, you look at the culture in Hollywood, for example, it's just a different culture, and I believe that we're becoming more and more desensitized because of what we see on television. If you look at Seal and Heidi Klum, who would have thought that they would have broken up and she left him for her bodyguard, who was always there and who was always around? You see Kristen Stewart just cheated on her boyfriend with a married man, and it seems that the sanctity of marriage, you know what's going on in the United States now, the sanctity of marriage and everything. People say, oh, okay, she was married, he was married. The bigger question is, why have we allowed ourselves to become so desensitized, and what about those values? And a woman who wants to hold true to her values, like myself, I'm saying, well, I'm not going to deal with the man who's cheating. And then you have older people whispering in your ear, well, you know what? Every man is going to cheat. So as long as he does it respectfully, a woman said this to me the other day, as long as he does it respectfully, Gandhi, don't worry, just as long as he treats you right. I mean, Armstrong, what happened to true, real love and the sanctity of marriage?
What is doing it right, Shirley? What do you mean? As long as he does it right, it's okay, Shirley. What does that mean?
What do you mean? I'm not sure. You're talking about whether the cheating.
A wife just said, as long as her husband does it with respect, it is okay. What does that mean?
Oh, I think Gandhi means that as long as your husband use discretion, because it's not something that you want to throw up in your wife's face that's happening. I think she thinks that if man consistently respects her as his wife, as number one, I think some women would say, go ahead and do what you have to do. As long as you respect me, as long as you take care of me, take care of my family, take care of my home, my children are not affected.
That's not a marriage. You're going to lose in the end. I'm sorry. You cannot lower the moral standard.
It happens, Armstrong. It happens.
Let me raise
I'm
this.
Just saying
if
happens.
that's the case, then Shirley, then a man should allow the woman to cheat. She should have the same standard. When she wants to, as long as she does it with discretion and respect.
A lot of women
But men won't allow that. They will not allow. They will kill that woman, Gandhi, and you know it.
Double standards, Gandhi. Double standards.
You as a man,
go ahead, Gandhi.
Why do men cheat so much?
I think men always think about cheating. I think the reason why they go to strip clubs, lap dancing, why they watch porno is sort of as a buffer so they don't commit the intolerable act of infidelity in and of itself. I think sometimes women will tolerate the strip clubs. They will tolerate the porno. I remember I was watching Investigative ID, and this man ended up dead, and they assumed because they found semen on his underwear and a lot of nasty videotapes that he had a secret lover. And when they confronted his wife, who was away in Florida, she said, oh, no, he had no lover. I knew he had those tapes. I allowed that to happen because that's what would keep him from cheating on me. And we came to a compromise that was okay. But I think eventually, if you continue to feed yourself with sex all around you, Hollywood, Angelina Jolie, and the different homes that she has wrecked over her lifetime, when you see these things, I think men, it's just their natural instinct to want to cheat. But I think Hollywood, marriages, and culture also gives them this sort of permission where they can step forward. And then also households, parents, fathers instill in them, this is what a man's supposed to do. Shirley?
I want to ask you a question, Armstrong. When men cheat with a woman and they're married, they call the woman his mistress. They say, his mistress, possessive, ownership, his mistress. What do they call the woman?
Slut.
See there?
Slut.
Now why does he get such a wonderful
because women allow
explanation?
It. Women are harder on the women than they are the men. You all allow it. You allow that culture and that kind of conversation. Gandhi, you know it's the truth. Women are the worst with women.
No, that's not the question I asked you. I asked you, why do men...
Wait a minute. What did you say, Gandhi? What are you saying, Gandhi? Repeat that. What are you saying?
I said, yeah, I said the other woman, and we're looking at her and saying, oh, well, she's this and she's that, and we're pulling her down, and we're emailing the mistress. Well, what about that conversation that you need to have with your man? And I think that sometimes that communication and conversation isn't there. But Armstrong, I want to ask you, what do you do what does it mean when a man is in a relationship? He loves the woman. He's crazy about the woman. If I can be real, he's getting it on time, the best sex. She cooks for him. She loves him. She supports him. She gets him. She makes him feel like he's never felt before, and he still steps out. Is it psychological? Is it just something built into the male gene?
Shirley?
Gandhi.
Gandhi.
I think it's a lot about egotistical. I think it's very egotistical when men do that. I think that they somehow always have to prove something, always, and never satisfied. So, I think it's just an ego thing. I really do. I think and some men, I think, get very insecure the older they get. When they get into like their 40s and their 50s, they think they're getting old. They don't want to be old. And no matter what their wife is providing for them, they want to go out and feel younger. So, they'll go out and have this affair. I'm not saying everybody, but I'm just saying basically in that little realm of conversation that you just mentioned. And I think that's what happens with a lot of men.
Armstrong, when does it move from just sex to like the full-blown affair with the emotions? If you're getting all those emotions at home, why be in love with two women? Why just not have sex and just come home?
I don't think most married men end up with their mistresses. I don't think that's what they want. I think that you can be madly in love with your wife and family and still commit adultery. I don't think it's an indictment that you love the woman less or that you're not getting what you need at home. I just think that men are bored and they like a variety. I think sometimes they try to coax their wives into having invite another woman in the bedroom, and I think women say no, and I think that's the right thing for women to do. But I just think that men have a voracious sexual appetite, Shirley.
Well, that's been debatable, and that's been very debatable. I've been reading a lot of things about. I hear that all the time, that men have a greater sexual desire, appetite to have sex. And I've read many times where women have more of a desire to have sex than men. They just suppress it. Men don't suppress it. Women, when they're married and they're in the home and they're raising their children and they want to keep their home life together, they suppress a lot of their desires to have sex. Whereas the man will go out and, just do it. He would just go out and have sex. If he wants sex, he'll have it. So, I don't think that's true about men having a greater sexual appetite.
Gandhi, has it always been this way since the beginning of time? How much has media and pop culture impacted this infidelity?
Wow, I think media and pop culture has certainly played a very serious role, Armstrong. When you look at all of the social networking sites and people being more liberal and more free with sexual expression, and you see the racy pictures and these pictures that invite the sexual conversation, and people are now so easily accessible through social media. You could even proposition somebody online. And Armstrong, like you say, the things that we watch, I remember back in the day, it was taboo to show someone's breasts. And then now we see people having full-blown sex scenes on the television, and not just heterosexual sex between a man and a woman. You have gay porn, you have same sexes, and everything is becoming desensitized. You even watch those shows like Family Guy, and you see young Stewie saying all of these things and acting like a homosexual, a little baby in diapers making these sexual comments. Armstrong, I think that it's so far gone. I think that everybody in America needs a copy of your book, Reawakening Virtues, because what do you tell the young woman or the woman in her 20s who hasn't had sex yet, who wants to wait until sex before marriage like they used to do in the olden days when the man would have to write a letter to the father to ask for this young woman's hand, and she stays with that one man? Like, what do you say to that person who wants to keep their morals, but then from time, it was accepted. The women just tolerated more. Now the woman will say, okay, you doing it? I'm going to go out and I'm going to do it too.
No, I want to say this. I want to speak as a man, a man's man. Obviously, I am a very private person, but, we always have the hormonal drives. Anybody who says otherwise are just lying. And we have these desires, and we feel we have to find an outlet for them. And I'm a bachelor, and obviously I have friends, but I will tell you, my track record, and the Lord is certainly my witness, has been pretty good. I get so many opportunities thrown at me. It's just amazing. But, my attitude is this. I look at it like not only like a business, but also life and death. I don't do well with strangers because, you just don't know their sexual history. And hepatitis, AIDS. There's so many sexual venereal diseases that are being passed around. And the bottom line is when you try to be good in terms of your sexual behavior and your choices, and you just don't want to go in the gutter with the sewer and mix with the sewer. And so in order to have standards, you've got to have a moral component. And that's the one thing we haven't talked about yet. What is it that helps you curb that appetite? What helps you make better decisions? We'll be back with Gandhi Pinder Shirley Dave. Don't go away.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.RightSideWire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.RightSideWire.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@RightSideWire.com and leave your information.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And so, for me, I think the people that you, if you tell me the people you surround yourself with, and I will tell you your future. Tell me the people that you lend your ear to, and I will tell you your destiny. I surround myself with people that reinforce my values. And basically, the guys I know who are basically married, none of them cheat on their spouses. It's unthinkable. I know guys who try to get them away and throw it at them, but they won't do it. Not so much because they don't want to, it's that they believe that there's such a thing as cause and effect and consequences. And they've also reached the point in their marriage, if they're thinking about doing something like this and they're struggling, they will go to their wives, their best friends, and say, look, there's something I'm really struggling with in the marriage. I'm not as fulfilled. And so sometimes the woman needs to change her hair, put a little dye in her hair, wear a little makeup. I've experienced this firsthand with friends of mine. Sometimes they just need to go out more. They need to have more fun. Instead of always somebody's on the phone, somebody's always over the house, they need their time. And so sometimes what it takes is a conversation to sort of add some spark into the marriage or the relationship. I think the biggest problem for adultery is the lack of communication. Shirley?
Armstrong, there's been so many different situations that I've seen in my lifetime, and so many extenuating circumstances. And one example is I know a young man, and he's a wonderful guy, and he has a girlfriend, but yet he had a baby by somebody else. And when I spoke to him, his explanation was that he was in a very weak, vulnerable moment when it happened, and it will never happen again. And so my whole thing is, we've all been in weak, vulnerable positions. Well, not you, Armstrong, but,
of course I have. Shirley, don't say that. I find that offensive for
not
you.
Armstrong.
Please. I mean, I'm all the time. But it's just how I navigate my way out of it.
But when you have that moral factor in your life, there's things that you just know that you're not going to do because morally, deep inside, it's not correct. It's not correct to do that. So,
or better than that, I'm not ready for the unknown consequences of it. That's the deep issue.
But that
for me.
has a lot to do with your morals.
Yeah.
That's your moral upbringing. That's your morals that you have instilled in yourself. And so I think when you have these strong morals, that there's an extent to certain things that you're going to do. And so I think when I hear men say, and I'm not beating up on men, when men say I was in a vulnerable position, on one hand, yes, I can understand it because some women are very, very, very aggressive. And, and if you're a man, you're a man. They say you're a man, you get into a weak position. But then where is that moral fiber? Where is that, that conscious mind set to say, hey, this is not worth it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to destroy my family. I'm not going to, get into this situation and leave it alone.
Gandhi?
Armstrong, I believe that so many people are hurting and so many people are suffering, and we take this baggage from relationship to relationship. There's a book called Men Don't Heal, We Hoe. For a lot of women and some people out there, they may have been molested or they may have felt rejection as a child growing up, and there's that extreme void. And sometimes we continue to just search and validate our actions because of the pain that we've experienced. And I think the remedy is, if you forgive, say you forgive. Connect with your purpose, develop a relationship with God, and get to that place to where you truly heal so that you can actually know your worth, to know what you deserve, because you may have not met a good man yet, or may not have necessarily thought he was a good man for you, but there definitely are some out there, and it's possible. Just get to that good place in your life. And Armstrong, I want to use the name of your book again, Reawaken Those Virtues. And if you didn't have that when you were growing up, connect with those virtues so you can be the person you were created to be and have the partner that God created you to have.
I will tell you this. These are certain standards that I have. I will never involve myself with someone who's married. I will never involve myself with someone who has a boyfriend. I just won't do it. I am not going to break up or bring about that kind of sin on my life. But also, help me understand this. Once you, and Shirley, you said this person that you've known was weak at the moment. The problem with adultery, the problem with crushing someone is the trust. Being able, because to me, if a person can violate and lie to me in that area of life, then everything else becomes suspicious for me. And from someone like me, trust is everything. Trust to me is loyalty. Trust to me, is it develops into love, protection. And if I can't trust somebody, first and foremost, I have nothing. And once you breach that trust, building that back, the least little thing, you become so paranoid, you begin to see things that are not even there. Innocent situations. When you breach someone's trust in that way, everything changes whether you like it or not. Shirley?
Oh, I agree. I'm the same way. When I find out I can't trust you, and I find out that you have, like, if I've been a good friend to you, and I know that I have been a good friend to you, and I know I have done everything possible, to make sure that we remain friends, and then I find out that you've done something, that you do something to violate that friendship and trust, I can't trust you anymore. I cannot be your good friend anymore. Yes, I will be, nice to you, and I'll remember my teachings from the Bible: forgive, 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 and I do forgive. I forgive a lot, but that little voice inside of you, that little trust thing, will always be there. That little trust, whether or not I can trust this person again, it will always be there.
Gandhi?
I always say love makes all men, makes everyone equal. And when emotions and love are involved, it's hard to say what you'll really do. It's like it changes the chemical makeup of your brain sometimes. But a lot of people are walking around with their guard up and carrying that lack of trust or hurt from a previous relationship into their current relationship. So it's like some people are never really the same. And they might say, okay, well, I'm going to cheat before this person cheats on me, and I'm going to do it before they do it to me. And Armstrong, it really is a vicious cycle. But
wait a minute, are you saying that cheating is a decision? Wait a minute, are you saying cheating is a decision and not an impulse?
I think it's a combination, and I think that some people justify it in their mind. So it is often a decision, Armstrong, and it's a decision to think those thoughts over and over and over again and not renew your mind. You said never, 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 right? I'm going to share something with you. I would never do this. I would never do it. I'm those never, never. I'm one of those never, 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 never people. And then sometimes when it's a particular circumstance, my advice to women out there especially, never fall in love with a broken man or someone who's on their way out of a relationship, whether they were dating someone for a number of years or whether or not is a married person, because that person is not thinking properly, and you may end up in a situation that you didn't want to. And we make a decision, whether we want to say it or not. We say, okay, I'm going to talk to this person. I like the conversation. They're a good friend. I'm not going to cross the line, even though this person is married. And then we deceive ourselves, and then things start to happen. And there you go. The cycle, like I said, Armstrong, continues again. There are so many people out there saying never, 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 never. And they used to like, darn, I can't judge people as much as I used to before because that was me too.
Armstrong, you said something earlier when you said that you were talking about men that cheat, and you said something about whether or not I lost my thought.
While you think of that, let me just say this to you. What about, here's the cruelty of it all, Gandhi. I can't believe this. I've heard so many women say to me privately, well, look at Petraeus' wife. She was dowdy. She wasn't attractive. She looked like his mama. She was old. I understand him cheating on her. Isn't that so shallow?
It is, but I do feel like women need to keep or maintain a certain standard. I think that men are very physical creatures, and this may sound crazy, but I always say to myself, I want to marry a man who's 10 to 15 years older than me, so I would always seem young to him. You just have to look at the ages. You have to look at when men peak and when women peak, and I just feel that when you're a woman and when you get a man, when you marry a man, you cannot let yourself go. You got to do the highlights. If your man says, baby, don't change a thing, I love you just like that, then cool. But I think even a woman for herself to just stay refreshed and rejuvenated. You got to do new things. You have to look the part, and every man wants to be proud of his wife, yes, for what's on the inside, but physically as well, too. It's another thing if you have an accident and there's a disability and something beyond your control, but no woman should let herself go to the point where her man would want to stray or wander.
Yes, Armstrong, my thought is back again. You said earlier that men will that have affairs with other women will not leave their wives. Most of the time. And I agree with that, because I know that most men that have these women on the side, it's like a joy with them, It's like a piece of candy that you've gotten, and then once you got that piece of candy and you get used to that piece of candy, you're going to always go back, because especially if that man has children with that wife, it's always going to be that wonderful connection. So it's going to be very difficult for him to just leave.
Hold that. We're coming back to the final segment. Gandhi Pinder Shirley Dave. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.RightSideWire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong-Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.RightSideWire.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Whether it's their impact on prison guards, law enforcement officials, business executives, employees, or marriage and relationships, Lorette is dedicated to changing the individual and institutions around the globe. Lorette's diverse network and training courses can help provide you with the tools you need to both wisely and confidently lead, manage, and supervise yourself as well as others. Lorette Business Network, a proven system for achieving success in your business and life. Please visit their website and begin this life-lasting journey with Lorette today. www.lorette.org.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong-Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong-Williams.
But I tell you this, to my distinguished panel, Ms. Pinder and Ms. Dave, even from the days of David in the Bible and how God loved David, because David loved the Lord with all his heart, and David loved the Lord. But let me tell you, and this is no joke, and we touched on this, whether the wife forgives you, whether the wife turns a blind eye, whether she tolerates it, whether she brings it to you, and whether you slide until you can't slide no more, there are consequences for these actions that sometimes that can befall your children and your grandchildren. And that is the thing that I don't think people really process enough in the long run. It's while you may not pay the full price, it is visited upon the family 5 generations deep. And we need to always keep in mind that you don't want to do anything to cripple, handicap, or destroy your lineage because they can. Shirley?
You know, back on that subject, you also have to ask yourself, I read about a lot of these men, governors, and that have had relationships on the side, and, you know, the scandal is broken, and then they've kind of like stepped down and done other things. And you have to ask yourself, why do the wives stick with men like that? Because most of the wives, if you read about them, they don't leave their husbands. I mean, look at the Clintons. You know, look what they went through.
Look at Elliot Spitzer in New York.
And Spitzer, Governor Spitzer's wife, they stayed together. And if you look at
McGreevy's wife in New Jersey.
A lot of the wives stay with them. So you ask yourself, why do they stay?
Materialism, comfort, feel they have nowhere else to go because they were taken care of and did not have to do anything, and have grown so dependent on that man they don't know what to do. They don't feel they can live and exist on their own.
Children. A lot of women think because they have children with these men that, you know, they need the man there in the house to help with those children, to continually be a father to those children, depending on, you know, the age group. So, I mean, it is a lot of reasons that they stay. And I don't know, if I was put in that position, you might want to ask Gandhi this as well. If I was put in that position, whether or not I would forgive and stay with my husband, or if I would leave him, or I want him to leave me. Because, you know, that can be a two-way street. It can, you know, you can take the attitude of, well, I don't want her, I'm not going to allow her to interrupt my family life. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'm staying with my husband. Or you can be so embarrassed and hurt that you leave. So what do you think, Armstrong?
Well, again, I think that is a personal decision between the spouses. I don't think you should care about public opinion. You should care about what anyone says, because you made that vow to God for better or worse, and that is the worst, in sickness or in health, until death you do part. Because I think the best example of a marriage are the Clintons. If that marriage can work after all these years and all those scandals, any marriage can work, Gandhi.
Well, how do you define working? Some people are sleeping in the same bed, but thousands of miles apart.
I don't even know if they're sleeping in the same bed.
Probably not.
Exactly.
Probably not.
So they would literally be miles apart, especially if they're in a big mansion, right? Or even in a White House. But yeah, and you know, it is really hard. But you all mentioned something very important, Armstrong. You spoke about lineage and you spoke about legacy, and the whole time we've been talking about Petraeus, and we've been talking about his mistress. Like, what about the children, and what about how they see this, and what about how they feel? What about how this is going to affect their relationships? And Dr. Deborah Bartlett always says, the more public you become, the more private you need to become. You would think the head of the CIA, not condoning it, but I mean, you know, you be a little bit more private, and then also too, opportunity is always watching and evaluating you. Are you going to let this decision, are you going to let this moment of weakness set you back? Or, Armstrong, is it a case of what do you do when you're married and your soulmate comes along? How do you deal with that?
Shirley, I'm going to let you take a stab at it.
Well, I think that's also where, you know, the point I was making earlier, I think that's where the wife comes in and protects the children. And I think that's why a lot of women stay in the marriage, and because of the children, because, you know, they don't want the children exposed to the scandal that's going on, even though they are, because, I mean, they have to go to school, they have to be with peers at school, they have to deal with this stuff, you know, and some kids in school, it can be very cruel, you know, so I think a lot of these wives say, look, this is for the benefit of the children, not for you. If you go back to the Elizabethan period and, you know, go back to the British royalty and all of that, you know, most of those rich families, you know, the husband and wife didn't sleep in the same room. It was just a thing, you know, they had children, they made their children, they had, you know, the household. And Gandhi, you're there in the Bahamas, so you're under that British influence, and you know what I'm talking about, how they didn't really sleep in the same bed, but they, you know, they had a family. So that, you know, sleeping in the same bed doesn't mean that you can't have a relationship or that you still can't make children, or that you can't still help your children, you can't stay together. I don't know. Even me, I'm not married, but I think if I was married, I wouldn't mind having separate bedrooms.
Gandhi?
Wow, that's a very strong statement, Shirley. But like you said over here, some women, and I'm going to say it in Bahamian dialect, they're like, where I got to go, where I going, where I going. Ain't no more man out there, or I have all of these children, or I've been here this whole time. What am I going to do dating at 60? What that look, a woman like me dating at 50? But life just begins at 50, and I think some of them, Armstrong, back to the whole thing, why is it so accepted? Some people are living and they know that they're not in love anymore. They're public figures, and the sweetheart will be there on the side. And it's almost like sometimes the wife becomes the mistress. It's crazy. And then you have the opposite end of the spectrum where the man would just absolutely die if the woman said that she was leaving. And there's nothing like a relationship between a man and a woman. And the public is saying one thing, and he looks her dead in her eye and says, I only love you. She doesn't mean to me what you mean to me. And, then the woman just unravels.
Are women better prepared for the adultery when they grow up in a household where their fathers cheated on their mothers? Does it help sort of ease? And are they also expecting it? Just like a woman grew up in a household where the father beat the mother, then she marries a man that does the same to her. We just pass these sick pathologies on from one generation to the next. Gandhi?
I definitely think it's cyclical, Armstrong, and it's so hard that the thing that we hate, sometimes we even become, because it could have the reverse effect on the young woman in the household. I see my dad doing this, and I see how men are. My father can do that to my mother, who gave birth to his daughter. Then I'm not going to let a man do it to me, so I'm going to do it first. I'm going to be a robot. I'm not going to have these emotions. And then so the girl becomes her father, and then it's repeated.
It was something that my mother told me when I was growing up, and she said, if you're with a man, you're involved with a man, one of the things you don't do, and that is don't wrestle with the man. You know how some people play and they wrestle with each other? And my mother used to always say, don't wrestle with him, don't do that. And I was wondering, why are you saying that? Why? But, she said, because they know where your weaknesses are if you do that. And I always kept that in my mind. And I remember I was with a boyfriend at the time, and he was wrestling with me, and I was listening to my mother's words, and all of a sudden I was like, leave me alone. I pushed him away because I never wanted him to see my weaknesses. And so if that's the truth, I kept it in my head. And so I think a lot of girls that see their mother abused, and I think some of them will say, I don't want that to happen to me, but for some reason, a lot of them end up with abusive mates. So, I mean, it's something that you really can't predict because it can work both ways. If they see it, they might say, oh, that's never going to happen to me. Or if they see it and they do end up getting in that situation, I don't know if they'll realize that it's a pattern. So it's a hard call as far as I'm concerned.
Gandhi, I mean, we're about out of time here. Your final thoughts?
Ask you, Armstrong.
Huh?
Well, I had a question for you, but don't worry, I'll wrap up. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me on your show today. This is a topic that people always ask, women always call in. When we talk about, on Global Insight, the emotional economy, relationships have to be the biggest topic. And I just want to say, keep your morals and your standards high to both men and women. Hold out for what you feel you deserve. And just look up 1 Corinthians 13. What is love if it's not patient and kind, if you can't be vulnerable, if you can't fully express yourself and put yourself out there to treat that man like the king that he needs to be treated like, and just love yourself.
What's your website address, and tell them more about the station?
Okay, Gems 105.9 FM, www.gemsbahamas, Gems GEMSradiobahamas.com. We're all about strengthening our women while we uplift our men, and you can catch Armstrong Williams live in the Bahamas and all throughout the world on that website, 8:10, Monday through Friday.
Thank you, and thank you, Lady Shirley Dave. There's the music. Thank you both so much for joining us, and this was an impromptu, unplanned recording. We just had to do it. We had to talk to the women. Mr. Right Side talking to Mrs. Right Side. Take care, everybody. Thank you, Gandhi. Thank you, Shirley.
High Point University has experienced unprecedented growth during the worst economic disruption in decades. This growth is driven by a university that focuses on holistic education, on experiential learning, and on values-based living. At High Point University, every student receives an extraordinary education in an inspiring environment with caring people. See what makes High Point University extraordinary at highpoint.edu.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org. Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henrys at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.